Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Enhanced. Obviously, my name is Holly, better known as Enhanced by Holly on Instagram. I'm very excited to be sort of talking to you today on this episode of Enhanced. I actually had put out on Insta Story a little question blog about what is it that you guys want to know about, what are you curious about, and if you have any questions or concerns. And I got one question that really resonated with me, and I thought I would just dive into it because it was such a good generalized question that I feel like I get asked all the time. And it's not like it was super specific, but it was amazing. It was the best question that could have been asked. So the first question, I guess, that was asked was, when is it appropriate to get filler? Super good question, because that is a big struggle for some ladies, right? Like, I do know that it feels like to me that Botox or neuromodulator, Dysport, whatever you want to call it, is definitely something that has picked up over time. These past, years, and even just the last decade, I feel like Botox, or the anti-wrinkle portion where this gets softer in the forehead, as an example, has definitely been something that a lot of ladies have decided to go ahead and do. But filler has definitely been more on trend lately, especially when it comes to lips. Like, I do feel like lip filler is something that people talk about all the time and are frequently getting. But when someone says, when is it time to get filler? That is a super good question, because I don't think necessarily they're talking about just their lips. They're sort of referring to overall, like, when is hyaluronic acid filler appropriate for one's face? So there isn't necessarily a specific age that filler is appropriate. I think sometimes filler might be inappropriate if it's a really young person and there's no, deficit, there's no areas of that I can see that treatment needs to be done on, for sure. But when should filler be done? And I think this question has to do a lot with going back to neuromodulators. I think sometimes what can happen is there's this portion here gets treated a lot by neuromodulators, right? We're essentially doing some brow lifts, we're treating crow's feet, we're dealing with forehead lines. But then all of a sudden, we're missing this portion of the face. This is 2/3 of the face. 1/3, 2/3. And all of a sudden, we're doing Botox up here for years and years and years, and that goes by. And then all of a sudden, nothing's been done to this portion of the face. The jowling starts to happen, the cheeks start to sink into the nasolabial lines, and the marionette lines get heavy. And then there's sort of this disconnect. And that's the thing. The disconnect that can happen when this looks 20 and this sometimes looks, quote unquote 50 or very aged. So there isn't a specific time when filler should be done, but it's definitely in the best interest, if you're gonna go ahead and do neuromodulators, that you don't forget about 2/3 of your face. Because if this is completely solid and has been frozen in time, and then we're not doing anything to this portion of the face to lift, sculpt, treat, and heighten things to where they once were when we were younger, then sometimes it can look a little bit odd, right? And there is that quote unquote disconnect. And I wouldn't want someone to have a disconnect to their face, right? We want this portion to match this portion. So I wanted to say that because it's my job as the injector not to necessarily tell you that filler, it's time, but for sure for me to say, this portion versus this portion needs to be considered. So if we're gonna go ahead and do treatment with neuromodulators here, and then completely forget about this portion of the face, a lot of people then come in years later and start going, lifting the face, saying, I need something done here, right? And the thing is, if we just do a little bit of filler throughout the cheeks and back here in the lateral components of the face, in conjunction with some thermage or laser treatments, it can go a long way with helping with that disconnect. So that 1/3 of the face is super important, but don't forget that 2/3 of the face, it's also really, really important. So don't forget about the smile, that nasolabial marionette, jowling, and cheek region, because it certainly is very important. So I hope that sort of gave a little bit of information about what I think about when to do filler. I don't have an exact age. I just would say that when there are deficits starting to happen and the nasolabials and the marionettes, the jowling portions are starting to get heavy, to maybe intervene on it. Maybe that would be a good time to talk to your injector and discuss, what is something that we can do for that? Is thermage maybe the best choice? Collagen building? Would one syringe maybe suffice to just give a little bit of lift? I just think for sure not to forget about this portion of the face, because that disconnect can be really frustrating for ladies who have sat down with me and they say, I've been doing these neuromodulators and Botox for years, and all of a sudden I woke up and I'm noticing that this portion of the face is definitely deficits, or there's just a lot of sagging happening, a lot of laxity, a lot of collagen issues. So for sure, don't forget about that portion. So I hope that sort of addressed a little bit about when filler is appropriate. I think intervening a little bit earlier as opposed to later is a better method. And I think prevention is definitely key. And I think if you do a little bit now as opposed to a lot later, it goes a long way. So obviously a little bit of neuromodulators even into the lower portion of the face, the chin, the depressor angulosaurus muscles, and even the lip to help with lines around the face in conjunction with a little bit of filler, potentially some lasers. Of course, some good skincare regime like Illume, of course, is a great place because it has active ingredients like peptides. It helps with resurfacing and just getting that cornflake cleaning thing going on there. And of course, sunscreen, staying out of the sun, staying out of tanning beds, and just taking care of the face and keeping it a priority for sure early on in life. So if you have any questions for me about the disconnect that I sort of just discussed, let me know. I'm always available to you guys. Just message me or leave me a comment. I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this portion of the enhanced episodes. I'm Holly Legg, and I'm your Enhanced by Holly. I hope you guys are having a great day, and if you have any questions, if you want to book in for a free consult, you can call the office at 668-5522, or you can visit us online at www.midwestlasercenter.com and book in for a free consult with me. We're super excited to see you guys. We had such an incredible Christmas season, and we know we're seeing a lot of repeat clients soon in the coming days. So I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day and weekend. See y'all soon.